Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's having a great day. I am Nancy Defford. I'm the Executive Director for PEN, the Pasadena Education Network, and welcome to what is probably the first of PEN's virtual programs this year. Before we get started, Laura Diaz, our Parent Engagement Director, has an announcement.
Sí, buenas tardes. Si hay alguien aquí que ocupe traducción al español, la manera de hacerlo es bajar hasta la parte más abajo de la pantalla y buscar donde hay un globito que parece un mundo y ahí tienen que hacer un clic y seleccionar el español, Spanish. Si tienen alguna dificultad, me pueden mandar un texto al 213-434-4000. Y bienvenidos.
Okay. All right, great. So for those of you who are new to PEN, we're a network of more than 1,800 parents who support and send our children to Pasadena Unified School District schools. We support parents in 3 distinct ways. We help them with their transition to kindergarten, secondary schools by introducing them to their public school options. Once in a PUSD school, we help parents engage more effectively to benefit not only their own child, but all children. And we bring parents' voices to PUSD leadership so that they consider it in their decision-making, and we advocate for educational equity. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization and are separate from the school district. So if you learn anything today, we hope you'll consider going to our website and signing up for a free PEN membership, and that you'll also consider making a donation to PEN so that we can continue to provide programs like this throughout the year. We know that this is a challenging time for all of you, but we hope that this session helps to answer some of your questions and gives you a better idea of what school will look like when it starts on August 17th with 100% remote learning. Today, we will only be talking about remote learning. If and when PUSD enters stage 3 and starts looking at adding the hybrid model, I expect that we'll have a program to explain that to you. During this meeting, PUSD staff will do a presentation, and then based on the questions you submitted in advance, Susan Schwartz, our program director, will ask some of the most common questions. Many of your questions are already incorporated into the presentation, and we will also be opening up at the chat at the end of the meeting so that you'll have an opportunity to type in if you have other questions. If you still have questions after the meeting, of course, you can feel free to email us. Our website has our email addresses, and we'll do our best to answer because things change so quickly. You know, as I said, we will do our best. And at this time, I want to thank Jeff Albert and Collaborate Pasadena for hosting our meeting, and also to remind our speakers in the third of our programs today to please speak slowly so that our interpreter has the opportunity to translate into Spanish. And so now I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Elizabeth Blanco, the Chief Academic Officer for the Pasadena Unified School District.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be here with you, and welcome to PUSD if you're new to PUSD, and welcome back if you are returning. So we have some information to share with you today that will be posted, and you can refer back to it. We also have launched our reopening public facing guide today that is on the PUSD website, and we'll also, the link will be shared with PEN. So if you don't have your question answered, you might find it in the guide, or we will go through the questions and try to get information back to everyone. So, you know, our primary goal in the school district is to make sure that all of our students and staff are safe. And one way that we're doing that is we have are working in phases in collaboration with Pasadena Public Health. And so our learning is aligned to the phases. We are in phase 1 right now, which is considered to be high risk, and learning will occur in a remote setting, distance learning. And then in phase 2, there's a medium risk For the most part, learning is still going to be remote for most of the students. We may be able to bring back some small groups of students who, are not able to access their education through the online environment for different reasons. And we may be able to bring back some childcare on our campuses to support parents in the community. So in phase 3, when the risk is very low, which we thought we would be opening, schools will reopen in hybrid, and then hopefully eventually, back to normal. So we're really dependent upon the metrics that have been set by LA County Health and Pasadena Public Health. And that's how we plan to keep children and employees safe. So I am going to turn the next part of the presentation over to Dr. Reynoso, our Assistant Superintendent for Instructional Services, and Mrs. Hill, our Director of Curriculum and Instruction. And they will explain to you more about the instructional components.
Thank you, Dr. Blanco. Thank you, Penn, and thank you to all the families who are joining us today. We hope you have stayed well. We hope you've had some great family time and enjoyed what they call a staycation as best you possibly can. I know that is a new word in our household, so every moment we get, we try to make the most of it and enjoy it. I am joined here today by several colleagues who will be sharing different varieties as well as supports and expertise in their respected area. My goal today, I'm joined today with Dr. Malone, who is the principal at Washington Multilingual Academy, as well as Mr. Maynard, who is the assistant principal at Elliott Arts Magnet. They have been developers in most of this work, so they'll be here to answer any questions along the way that I may have missed or that you may come about. So I am going to be specifically speaking to 6th through 8th grade, so I'm going to pass over a couple of slides while I get there. But I wanted just to draw your attention. Many of you may have heard what we're doing, but I want to share some highlights as to what the beginning of the year will look like. We're going to be drawing your attention to the left side, which is phase 1 and phase 2. We are recommending at this time, and the reason I'm using the word recommended or suggested is because we are in negotiations with our labor partners, and so we want to honor that process. But this is what we have put out there as a consideration for the opening of schools in phase 1 and phase 2. We are proposing at all 6th through 12th grade. So I'm saying that because it is collective. 300 minutes during that time in which a student would be participating. We are asking that our staff and our students participate in daily live, what we call synchronous instruction. We also are going to make sure that we are honoring all 6 courses. That's right. All 6 courses are going to be delivered. Muir will also be honoring their block schedule, and they'll be doing 8 courses. So we want to make sure that we are giving liveliness and concentrated efforts, as well as every opportunity for every single learner that we have in Pasadena Unified to have access to their educational plan that is thoughtful and it's productive. We are looking at a student.
About up that has the.
I'm sorry. Okay, I just heard somebody, sorry. And the way the students will be participating is they'll be going through their courses Tuesday and Thursday, and then they'll repeat their courses Wednesday and Friday. They also will be having class on Monday, and that schedule will be set forth. Because we haven't had approved timelines yet, what you'll see in just a moment is what the suggested day will look like. And then as soon as we have approval, we will have the times affiliated with that. Our 6th through 8th graders, in accordance with our senator's legislation, I'm not sure everyone is aware, but the legislation states that our middle school students, 6th through 8th grade, cannot start school earlier than 8 a.m. And so we are producing a time in which we are suggesting that our middle school students start at 8:15. And that is also inclusive of McKinley, since they also host 6 through 8. And then their day during phase 1 and 2 will dismiss at 1:55 p.m. So let me show you a sampling of what your students would encounter. I want to also point out the purpose behind the way we designed these schedules. Although there were many, this is the one we felt was going to be most productive when we thought about every type of learner we had in our school district. And that includes students who are engaging in AP courses, the IB program, multilingual academies, students who are engaging in English language learners, students who are newcomers and are participating in our international academy. This is important that every single student have the same opportunity. So let me just explain to you how a student would experience their day. And so we would ask that they're going to start their day. Let's just start, we're gonna look at a block schedule. As I mentioned, they'll have school every single day of the week. Mondays will be slightly a lighter load only because we've designed it to honor teacher planning, grade level alignment, content area alignment, opportunity for parents and teachers to collaborate if needed. And then again, this opportunity for both student synchronous and asynchronous with their teacher. So students, as you will see, on a Tuesday and a Thursday will have their periods 1, 2, and 3. We've also built in, as you can see, nutrition, passing periods, lunchtime. This is really important because when we think about the time in which we would be transitioning back, we really want to make sure that all students experience their day as comprehensively as possible. Then on alternating days, Wednesday and Friday, they would then be participating in their remaining periods. Now, as you will note on this schedule, you'll see something called advisory. Now, what we are looking at right now is any school that hosted this type of learning environment or opportunity, we would be able to host that in the 2020-21 school year. If they did not have that in there, then the opportunity for advisory. Now, advisory comes in a variety of different ways at our different signature schools. And I may invite Mr. Maynard or Dr. Malone, if you would like to just pop in. What are a couple of the things that happen during advisory at your school?
This is Mr. Maynard. Dr. Malone? Go ahead.
We can hear you.
Go ahead, Mr. Maynard.
So part of what we do at Elliott is we actually utilize those as an extra arts elective. So as part of meeting our arts magnet grant, we actually had to make sure that we actually got everyone into an arts elective, especially for our ELD students, our English language learner students. We needed to make sure they're required to have an ELD class for their elective, and we needed to find another way to actually make sure that they could actually get an arts. And so we utilize our advisory for that time to make sure that that is occurring. We also use it for things like ASB, our Associated Student Body, Student Government, and other classes of that sort. So that's one of the functions that we use for advisory on a daily basis.
Thanks, Mr. Maiden. Dr. Malone, what do you do at Washington?
Well, at Washington, we have a different type of magnet grant, but one of our major focus areas is social emotional learning. So we use our advisory time for all students to receive social emotional instruction. We use a curriculum, the second step curriculum, which is the district adopted curriculum, as well as other items so far as we also have AVID at our school. So we use it for school-wide AVID. We use it if there's a particular topic school-wide that we want all students to receive. We'll use that time for those types of topics. But the majority of the time is used for social emotional learning as a requirement for our grant, as well as we feel the kids need it. And so we're able to offer it. And that was our way of using that time.
Thank you both. That's very helpful. It just gives you an idea of some examples that have advisory has been used at some of our sites. Each site has a slightly different approach and has some different components or signature programs. I also want to just point out a couple of items. One of the situations that we're looking at is that the periods in which, as you can see, only they'd be going to 3 classes a day. That seems different, right? Well, it is. We are building in a way to not only have live sessions with groups of students, but we're able to design the periods where the teacher has the ability to break that class session into smaller sessions, so she or he does not have as many students during that live session. We also are building that, as we have mentioned in other sessions, this personalized learning time. This is where the teacher can host smaller groups. This could be a time when we're doing assessment. This could be time where teacher and other students are working on project-based assignments. And it's an opportunity for a flurry of different types of learning. Whereas in a typical period, we don't have as much time. So we're really looking forward to having this time to be embellished within the period of time, and gives a lot more opportunity for a teacher and her students or his students to engage in this learning. We also wanted to point out in a couple of Penn specific questions that these schedules are really set for so that there's also an opportunity for teacher and student to have office hours. We really want that engagement level to be meaningful. We really want the application of what they're learning to be effective. So that's another way in which students and teachers can engage with one another. And how involved should parents be of their students in 6th through 8th grade? Well, I would say I'm a parent of 3 students in PUSD. We're only 1 year into being in high school, but I will say in the middle school years is no different than anything in the K-5 or the high school. You need to be involved. There's just unique ways in which to do that. Make sure that you continue to find independent ways for them to be successful, to find ways to engage in what they're learning. It's really instrumental because when you're involved, their participation and their interest continues to be really pivotal, and they will want to join. They will want to look forward to being with their classmates and with their teachers. And really want to make sure that because we are setting forth this type of a schedule, that it lessens the overall load we learned in the spring. This is what's different. Traveling through 6 courses in one day is quite a bit for a young student, a young scholar. And so we're really trying to learn from them, how can we better their involvement and their engagement. So this is one of those ways that we're doing that. And I know that Dr. Sahakian will talk later, but relationships are very important at this time. And as you heard from Dr. Malone, many of our sites utilize the second step curriculum to create that meaningful community and to create that meaningful opportunity for students to learn from one another and become really productive citizens, even when they're being faced with really extreme circumstances or even traumas in their life. That is really important for what we're doing. Mrs. Hill will also talk a little bit about the curriculum that we're going to be using, that we are using all of our board adopted curriculum and resources, as well as some enhancements to make sure that the teachers have really great ways to engage students. And then finally, will our students be prepared for high school? Absolutely. Absolutely. We have amazing teachers. And I think that, in this time, they're really learning how to become different educators. None of us had time in 2 weeks to figure this out, but I can assure you at this time, they have been going through extreme trainings and opportunities to strengthen who they are as educators so that they can come back to the table and be virtual educators. This is definitely not something we all have extreme expertise in. And I will say that it takes time to become good at something habitually. So we're looking forward to us being lifelong learners ourselves. I know myself, I'm doing the same thing as many educators and parents on this call. And then just to wrap up, it's really important that you stay connected with your teacher. I know that sometimes at the middle school, it becomes a little bit different, but we invite you to participate in communication as often as you need to. We really do expect there to be a partnership. We want you to be a partner in this work. Your students' education is of value to us, and we know that it is to you as well. So make sure that you use all the resources. Mrs. Hill is going to be sharing with you some ways in which you can stay further involved than we had in the spring, as well as utilizing all the tools that are enhancements for staying connected, whether that is an email, a phone call, or face-to-face like we are today. We do invite you to participate so that you know how to support your child further. I also want to let you know that in order for your child to be successful, we need to ensure that they are equipped to have the textbooks and the devices and the supplies they need to do their work from a virtual setting. So although typically we would invite families to come on registration days onto campus, this type of work is going to be a little bit different. We've been working with our local Pasadena Public Health, and Ms. Ria Apodaca, who is our new health director, she has assisted me and a team of developing a procedure for how to pick all of this up. So you will be hearing information coming from your school site as it relates to a staggered date and time of when you will be coming onto campus. We will be following all curbside protocol that has been developed and is in accordance with Pasadena Public Health, to pick up a device if you need one, to pick up their books because they're going to need them, and to pick up supplies. We are putting supplies together for students so that they can continue to be successful at home. Should you run into any problems with your Chromebook, if there is troubleshooting or you need help, we will be providing that additionally on how to service things from home so that you can continue to support your child. We look forward to working with you. We again thank you for this time. And I know that we may not be able to answer every question tonight, but just know that as we continue to develop and learn from all of you, we continue to strive in our work so that you have a successful enter into the 2020-21 school year. I'm going to now toss the baton to my colleague, Mrs. Helen Hill.
Thank you, Dr. Reynoso. So you've heard a lot of good information just now from Dr. Reynoso about what the school day would look like. That for middle schoolers, we're going to start the day at 8:15. We're going to release the day, I think it was 1:55. I may be getting my numbers all mixed up. But your next question is likely what happens within those hours. And so I wanted to talk a lot about what it is that we are working on with our teachers so that they can deliver the instruction to your students in a way that is very respectful of the online environment and the amount of time that we do and do not have with the kids. So this weekend, we were able to publish the Distance Learning Handbook, a custom created document that PUSD put out for our teachers. The very first section, the instructional guidelines, is actually something that's been very much supported by the guidelines that the state has produced, as well as the departments of public health in both the state level, the county, and in Pasadena. Unlike emergency remote learning in the spring, we actually have a very clear set of guidelines. Granted, they may be changing very frequently, but they are very clear as opposed to the emergency situation that we found ourselves in the spring. What helps with this is that it provides consistency, not only for our district schools, but for all districts across California. So there isn't quite the mystery of who is doing what, but rather here are the parameters that each school and school district are provided, and how will we make that a reality in our own district. So that's been very helpful. However, the bread and butter of what I wanted to share with you is the start of school sections of this handbook for our teachers. What we're really working on with them is this concept of how online instruction must be different than in-person in traditional kind of classroom settings. What we really are going to see the most difference in is more live synchronous time. But I think that you would probably agree with me that live synchronous time doesn't necessarily mean that the instruction is delivered in the same way that it would have been done in person. Now you have older students, and typically our older students have been able to transition better into an online environment and understand procedures quickly. So that's something that we're going to capitalize on, but we're still going to ask the teachers to spend the first couple weeks in a launch period, where we're launching off into the school year. This is not something new to them. They've done launches in the classroom, but typically this is to build community and to share with students how to get into the procedures and routines that establish student independence for the coming instruction. This will still be the same, but obviously norms and community agreements, etc., will be different in an online classroom versus in person. And so they will be still spending time on that, but then getting into the content a little bit. So look forward to the first couple weeks of school for a time for your teachers to really get to know your kids and you as well as families, and then vice versa. So the other aspect of the virtual classroom that we are really working on with our teachers is this concept of instruction and feedback versus assignments and testing. So what you probably saw with your older students is that a lot of the tasks that were put out in the spring were more driven by assignment completion. And while there are still obviously going to be assignments and practice and things that that teachers will require students to do, we are making sure that what really has to happen in an online environment is that teachers need to be back and forth interacting with students in a feedback loop so that they really understand where are they, how are they doing, and what is their progress looking like. And I'll get to a little bit of what are the tools that help our teachers do that for your kids. I want to move to the Canvas classroom, which is, oh, actually, you can go back to the last slide. Thanks, Julie. Sorry. The Canvas classroom is actually where we are pouring in all of these consistent things that will be in place for instruction. Now, last year, if you were with us, you operated within a different learning management system called PowerSchool Learning. And this year we made the switch to Canvas because it is a more robust system. And it does provide something that was missing in our last one, which is parent observer accounts. And this is a really critical thing because for all of our parents at any age group, they want to have insight into what their students are doing. In particular, for middle school parents, because you do have older and more independent kids, sometimes you need to check to make sure that what they are saying is happening is actually valid. Sorry, my secret life was before heading down to the district office, I taught for 7 years at Washington Middle School. So I love middle schoolers, and I am very well aware of what we need to do to make sure that we are all on the same page. But with that, the parent observer account from Canvas is a means of you communicating with the teacher directly, a way for you to see your students' assignments and their task completion, grades if you're interested, but just really a way for you to check in on their calendar, what's coming up next, what's the deadline, much more so than saying, hey, can you sign in and let me see your account, which some of our students are not going to, be very quick about handing their account over to their parent. So, so what I do encourage you to do is go ahead, if you've got a smartphone, you can download the Canvas Parent app. It's a little blue icon, but you will need a pairing code that we will be providing for you later. So just get it ready and you'll get the pairing code later when the students' accounts are active. But that's actually something that we are really looking forward to, is having a more robust system for the instructional piece to be loaded online, and for you to be able to interact with it as well. All right, so now I'll go into the next section. So in terms of what does the content look like, one of the questions that is most common is, what are we going to do based on the fact that school sort of was abbreviated last year? So there have been some changes to the PUSD curriculum to account for additional time that is needed, really pulling out the essential skills, but doing it with a very consistent manner, meaning we are centrally indicating what are the essential skills for every grade level and subject, and providing that to all of the teachers so that teachers are not having to guess as to what is essential for their subject. The other item is that we are going to rely on the instructional resources that are, one, familiar with the students. That means the core adoptions that Dr. Reynoso was mentioning, but also we are providing an additional supplemental tool through a vendor called ASU Prep Digital that is created specifically for an online environment. Those of you who've watched the presentations at the board meeting may have a little bit more background, but essentially what the content series coming out of ASU Prep Digital does is it provides lessons and activities already designed and already able to be aligned to our curriculum in the Canvas learning management system already. Meaning teachers do not have to spend their time translating and moving their content into the learning management system. it will already be pre-populated, and all teachers need to do is move things, adjust things, and customize things according to the theme. If they are, you know, a STEM integrated course, they can do that customization, etc. So that's something that you can look forward to seeing. You don't have to pick it up. It is online, but you will be needing the other materials to go along with it. And finally, the last thing that I wanted to share with you guys is this assessment piece, because we will very much need to partner with you on it. Because it is extremely important for our teachers to know where students are in terms of skill and knowledge level when they're coming in. We will be pushing out a few digital assessments because we won't be able to see them in person. Now, this typically happens anyway at the start of a school year, particularly for 6th graders at a transitional level, but we will be putting it in place for all grade levels. These will be specifically for literacy, reading, and math. And so you're going to look forward to getting some information there. Now, what I am really encouraging parents to do is to understand the purpose of these assessments is for the teacher to best make instructional decisions. So we want the results of the assessments to be as authentic as possible. One of the examples that I gave at the earlier levels is that, you know, my son has come in, and he's going to be a 5th grader, so he's a little younger than your guys. But he came in and he asked me for help on a math problem. And having been a math teacher, I get all excited that he's even interested in my help, because most of the time he doesn't think I know anything. And so I helped him, and then later on found out that he passed it and he was moving on to this other level. And I was like, no, nobody's taught him that yet. I mean, don't depend on me to teach him that. I taught it to him for 5 minutes, and all of a sudden he got it right, and you think he's mastered it. So what I realized was he didn't tell me that it was a quiz. He sort of acted like it was just an assignment. And what resulted was I gave incorrect information to his teacher, who now believes that his independent level is that he understands this particular concept in math, when really he doesn't, and he needs instruction in it. And so we're going to be putting together a little series of trainings for parents with the vendor of our assessment, the iReady system, to help you see how we can, as parents, support our children in not being frustrated in an online assessment, but also to take their time and really give an authentic picture to the teacher on what they need support with and what they already know and we don't need to spend time on. So so please look forward to that, and just, you know, keep in mind that those are sort of the ideas behind all of the information that we're intaking for students this year. Really needs to help a teacher make an instructional decision, since they can't be with your kids in person. And with that, I think what I want to sort of leave you with is this idea that moving through the schedule of the day, for a middle schooler, we sometimes assume that because they're older, they're independent, they can log on, they know what time they're supposed to show up for class, but they still do require some structure. I mean, one of the reasons why I loved being a middle school teacher is that in between, those kids in the middle, they think they're young adults, but they're still just fresh. You know, they're still young, and I don't want to disrespect them and baby them at all. You know, and to that end, I really do encourage a lot of voice and choice with your students, but know what areas you want to give them voice and choice in. I'm not going to give them voice and choice on, you know, which assignment they're going to do. You're going to be accountable to what your teachers ask you to do, but maybe some voice and choice in the pace you want to use to get it done, the place you want to sit. Do you want to have music on or off during your personalized learning time, and things like that? So they know that there are some constraints, but that they also have a little bit of independence. But I would definitely say that with middle school, in the online environment, there are some things that they do well, compliment them on it, because they do have independence in being very, you know, I think proficient with a lot of the online tools, but in understanding what their teachers need, I would be very attentive to that in the first few weeks to make sure that you guys are all on the same page before we really kind of release the kids to do things on their own. All right, with that, I'm going to hand it over to my colleague, Mr. Ruelas, to begin talking about some of the student supports we have.
Thank you, Helen. Hello, my name is Juan Ruelas. I'm with the Language Assessment Development Department. We oversee all of the English learner programs, including dual language immersion, and we also take care of translation and interpretation for the district. To assist and support our schools and for the students to attain a language fluency, whether it's in English or whether it's in the school's target language, and basically helping the schools to succeed, our department works closely with schools to ensure that they have all the necessary tools so that targeted and intentional support is delivered and differentiated. For our English learners, it's called English Language Development, or ELD. And for our DLIP students, the instruction will be synchronous and will continue to follow our district's pacing guide, with teaching happening in the specific target language. During the school year, we work with schools in providing multiple engaging professional development opportunities in both ELD strategies as well as in dual language strategies. We work closely here with this wonderful team that we have on providing effective methods and types of effective strategies, which will all be adapted in distance learning. Additional reinforcements are provided to our schools in the form of access to supplemental resources, including applications, which will be embedded into a teacher's and as well as your child's Canvas page. We are also planning to work with schools on assisting your child with virtual live tutoring in smaller group sessions so that we can further reinforce the supports and interventions that they need. I'm going to put our department's webpage in the chat box. It also has the link to my email, including my extension that you can reach out to me at any time to ask further questions or any needs that you may have. And with that, I'm going to pass the presentation along to our Assistant Superintendent, Dr. Eric Sahakian. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Penn. Thank you, Collaborate Pasadena, for this platform for our parents. I'll begin with the mental health support section, as you see here on the slide, for additional services. As we start the new school year, we will be continuing to offer developmentally appropriate mental health services that will be delivered by our social worker team, as well as our Masters of Social Work interns. PUSD consortium agencies, such as Hathaway Sycamores, DeVille, and others that we have an MOU with, will continue providing services, all done remotely, telehealth. The link to an online referral for mental health counseling will be posted on our website. It is there on the Child Welfare and Attendance Safety website under Programs and Services. Once referred and approved, the mental health agency attached to the school site will contact the parent and caregiver for the initial intake. Our team will also provide staff development to school sites on signs and symptoms of possible mental health concerns with our students, what teachers should look for during their virtual class sessions, and where and how to refer students. We are also working with the Parent Engagement Office to hold a parent forum prior to the reopening of schools to discuss trauma experienced during these unprecedented times. More tools, short psychoeducational videos are being developed and recorded and will be posted on our website for students and parents. Such topics such as relaxation techniques, effective coping strategies, deep breathing exercises, some coping mechanisms related to trauma-informed care will be posted for our students as well as our parents as we tackle social and emotional concerns. In addition, for our vulnerable populations such as foster youth, our foster youth supports and services, of course, will continue remotely, but there's a myriad of services and supports such as our Foster Youth Star Resource Center program. Virtual weekly meetings are held facilitated with our foster youth community liaison, Ms. Ocasio, with our identified foster youth students. That's done weekly to help encourage, motivate, and keep students on task. Our foster youth counselor is geared towards our secondary sites in particular, but he does lend his supports to all of our foster students by maintaining contact via phone calls, emails, as well as facilitating any types of services and supports that foster youth students may need within our community. Our incoming foster youth students will still continue to go through what's called a triage process. That is a meeting that's held weekly with community partners, stakeholders, caregivers, as well as Ed Center staff for appropriate placement of newly entering and enrolling foster students to our district. Our McKinney-Vento identified families, homeless education. Our Families in Transition office will be conducting and continuing identifying their McKinney-Vento count for appropriate case management of services via teleconferencing, immediate needs of support for basic needs and necessities in collaboration with Salvation Army, as well as online McKinney-Vento education presentations for staff, administrators in our community. At this time, I want to echo what Ms. Malone from Washington mentioned regarding the social emotional component. Our middle schools are equipped with a second step online curriculum. Our teachers have access to the social emotional learning materials to help students and their well-being. With that, I will now turn it over to Ms. Vivian Wong for special education. Thank you.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Sahakian, and thank you for the Penn family. My name is Vivian Huang, and I'm the Special Education Coordinator. I'm here on behalf of Dr. Marco Villegas, who is unable to attend today's meeting, and I wanted to kind of briefly go over our department plan as to how our department is aligning with the general education. Just overall, how are we pushing out the services for our students with IEPs and of course families that who need that extra layer of support from our special ed department. As all as a support department, our common goal really is to be there and make ourselves available to support students so then they can maximize their learning to access general education curriculum. And so I know that some of the parents here might have had experiences, with the students that, who've had an IEP that, of course, an IEP consists of many team members, and that a special education case carrier is the main person who is going to be reaching out to parents. And with the remote learning plan that, some of the parents might have experienced, in the spring, that the remote learning plan is what our department really is working hard on. It's to kind of collaborate with all the service providers. When I say service providers, are people who, are providers who provide, speech services, occupational therapists, occupational therapies, and other related services, in accordance with the student's IEP. So I know the collaboration is definitely a key at this time, because given the providing the services remotely, I know some families are still adjusting to that platform, and we are committed to make sure that when we provide services, the schedule, the sections that are we craft for students, that really it's we're taking the feedback from the parents and from the service provider to make sure that we can plan accordingly with the service provider. So the service provision model could look like, the RSP teacher may do a push-in a gen ed classroom where the RSP teacher can, play the co-teacher role in the, on the remote platform. Whereas, the SD teacher may be able to have more flexibility to kind of host the class or the lesson, within just, with the students who are specifically assigned to that SDC class. And overall, I think our goal with our service provider, really, they are there to support the students and families to make sure that as they access general education curriculum, they're able to receive the related support that they need in order to make progress on their IEP goals. And I know that in the spring that many parents have experienced online virtual IEPs, and we are very excited this year that the district has launched WebEx, and that is a completely more user-friendly platform when we moving forward in the new school year to schedule for IEP meetings. I think that's will be a lot more user-friendly for parents to participate in. And I know with the remote learning, a lot of our staff and teachers, service providers, they are going to receive ongoing training So those are categorized as job-like meetings where they will be grouped in group with their colleagues who practice the same skills or provide similar services to their students, and there will be ongoing meetings for the staff. And as Dr. Villegas also, he's new to the PUSD family, and he's already initiating meetings specifically with the parents who have students in the special ed realm. And so more information will come from Dr. Villegas. And so this is pretty much kind of sum up the presentation for the special ed department. And I'll hand it back to Susan.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, I'm just turning on the chat feature so that if you have additional questions, and I'm sure people do, that you can write them there. We're not going to have time in this hour to answer all of the questions that get posted, but we will follow up. We will be posting a recording of this session, and we will be following up with the Q&A as well. Just know that. While people are thinking about their questions and going to post them, I have a couple of questions that I just wanted to ask. One was, what if a student misses, these are from the questions we received ahead of time from parents. What if a student misses a class, or is there an opportunity to make it up? Will classes be recorded? We talked about this in an earlier program, but I want to make sure our middle school parents hear it also. Maybe Helen?
I can take that, Susan. Yes. We are asking teachers to record the lessons they do during the live time, because we understand that there are a lot of reasons why a student might not be able to attend. And Dr. Sahakian actually, confirmed earlier that attendance is actually calculated not necessarily just on live interaction, but also on work completion and other ways that a student might communicate with their teachers. So as long as they're dedicated in following the instruction, whether it's a video recording or the live instruction, then they'll have credit for that for attendance. Okay. And later, Susan, I did want to add, there was a resource that I didn't have a chance to share about, but I think that our parents might want to know if we get to sort of intervention and tutoring.
Well, actually, that was my next question. You have read my mind. So my next question was, how do we know if our child is on track, and what kinds of tutoring resources might be available, or other kinds of resources available if they're falling behind or they're struggling with a particular topic or subject? Perfect.
I would definitely say that one of the main ways that you can find out whether your student's on track is communicating with the teacher. And Dr. Malone or Mr. Maynard may want to add more specifics as to how a teacher might do that. But one of the ways that we do provide from the district is that assessment piece. The digital assessment piece will happen 3 times a year. This also goes through that very first beginning one is a diagnostic. It is also, just as an FYI, when we will take into account math placement, because you know that at the start of middle school is when we sort of make a determination around math sequence and placement. So that is still valid, and that will be the digital assessment that we are talking to you about. We're not going to over-assess the students. We want to make sure that we can utilize the same information for multiple purposes. Now, for tutoring, and this applies for students who not only need support, but students who might even be working at a variety of different areas. It might be a gifted student who is working in an accelerated way. It might be a student who needs some support with something that they didn't pick up last year. This year, we are really proud to be able to provide, with the significant support of Dr. Blanco, a resource called Paper. It is formerly known as GradeSlam, if you've ever heard of it, but essentially they're a digital tutoring service. And one of the reasons we were drawn to them is that their mission is actually educational equity, that not just families who have the ability to get tutors can provide tutors for their students, but that every family should have access to professional tutors for their students. And so, which, I mean, many of you here are probably tutoring your children yourself, and this would be a relief. So Paper provides 24/7 access to trained tutors who actually are trained in the Socratic method. So they don't just give answers to students, they ask questions. So when a student calls in about a particular topic, the tutor knows to ask them some guiding questions to try to really seek what it is that they don't understand and try to help them from that point. The other service that Paper provides is actually some essay, peer editing. Well, I guess it's not peer, but tutor editing, because teachers in this climate don't have the ability to edit hundreds of papers, and we do want our teachers to be able to work with writing and not be not have the online environment be prohibitive to writing assignments. So Paper will provide that support as well. They are also available in Spanish if the family wants to communicate in that language. They have tutors that are that are fluent in both English and in Spanish and French, but I'm not sure if that's that's also a possibility.
Okay, we're starting to get questions here in the chat. I will ask just one more of the earlier questions, which was how, and this may be something for Mr. Maynard and Dr. Malone to address, how will students connect with their peers? Are there going to be electives, clubs, projects? Can you maybe give an example or two of what that might look like?
This is Dr. Malone. So students, first of all, like as I discussed before, an advisory also has the purpose of making sure kids are getting together and doing things that are not necessarily academic to build community, but we are able to have those activities being common for all students so they have shared experiences, even if they are talking to people outside of their own advisory. Because we have switched over to the new oh my gosh, I just lost my thought. The new communication, WebEx. Yes, the teacher has the ability now to put kids into small groups to kind of work together in projects that they didn't have before with Google Meet, and so that they can work together on virtual projects. So that is there as well. So all students will still have electives. We did not get rid of any electives. So students who are in music, as trying as it may be, they will still have music. They will still have choral music available, and our teachers are working hard to make the best of this virtual environment to offer those electives at our school. And I'm sure Mr. Maynard will speak to his as well, having those available to his students. So far as clubs, we are actually working on that, ways to maybe establish some virtual clubs for our students, and also using some advisory time, maybe not every day, but maybe once a week, to provide associated student body and other clubs that would happen regularly on our school campus. So we are working on all those things, but students will have the opportunity to socialize virtually. I'll pass it over to Mr. Maynard.
Yeah, I'm going to second actually almost everything you said, Dr. Malone. We're doing much of the same things. We've been talking about how we can actually have clubs using some of the formats we just talked about through the new WebEx breakouts, as well as the small group interactions. I'd also like to say we had some successes last year as it was already with some of our virtual ASB events that we held, and we're planning and have been talking about ways to expand that and make it even better, so where students can actually get online and play virtual games online as part of our school spirit activities, to actually still give those students a chance to actually have some interactive opportunities and build that school community virtually as well. So that conversation is being held, and we're fleshing some of that out with our ASB director right now.
And just like Mr. Maynard said, doing school spirit virtually online, so far as using Instagram, of course, with parents' permission, if they allow their kids to participate in our virtual spirit weeks on those social media platforms.
We have a question about, can you explain how the cohorts work during phases 1 and 2? I guess that's the A and the B cohorts. Can you briefly explain how that gets set up and what that means for our students?
Sure. The cohorts at this time will not be activated until phase 3. So we don't need to worry about that at this time. We really want to maximize every opportunity that we have with our students because things will change once we move into phase 3. So no need to worry about that now. A lot will happen before then. However, we will make sure that we have a plenty of time for transitions and communication so families can be prepared when that transition happens.
I know you don't know the answer yet about what Mondays are going to look like in terms of schedule, but will students and their parents know who their teachers are on day
yes.
one?
Actually, oh my goodness.
Or will they get to, when will they first get to meet their
Yes,
teachers?
yes,
I guess
yes.
was sort of the question.
Well, in our traditional, times, in the 6th through 8th grade, we typically find out who our teacher is via portal. So I would encourage every single family. If you already have a parent portal account, fantastic. Invite a friend. We need every family involved in this process moving forward. And I don't say that because of the remoteness that we are in. Parent Portal is a device and a platform in which equips us to be complete supporters of our students. It not only provides, just the essentials, contact information, it allows you to be a wonderful partner with your parents and with other parents, as well as very systematically with your own students. And for example, when I started using it in a way that I wanted to help my students and my children succeed, it was really about, hey, Noah, I noticed that your grade went down because you're missing an assignment. Talk to me about how you're handling that. It's not my job to tell Noah or for my job to reach out to the teacher. It's my job to equip my son with how does he handle this? What does he do? But it gives me the opportunity to engage in a really wonderful conversation with my child so that he can be an owner of his learning. And I encourage you to do the same thing. I would say that it's not to be used as a way of punishment, but a way of staying on top of things so that you can help your child succeed. So I do ask that you all get involved in that. And through doing that, our students will find out who their teacher is or who they're rostered in as early as next week, I believe. That's when we're hoping to have that information if all goes well.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's see. Did Nancy, Laura, did you see any other questions in the chat or have any other things that you wanted to ask before we
Yeah, I was going to
start to
ask
wrap up?
about, Helen, I know you brought up middle school students and how, they can be a bit squirrely. And so I'm wondering for middle school students, if you have any recommendations for how parents can keep them motivated and what will happen if teachers start recognizing that they're falling through the cracks.
Yeah, and I would definitely like to, take this on with Mr. Maynard and Dr. Malone because they, I think they have a lot of insight on the, students falling through the cracks, in their day-to-day business. But I would definitely say that a recommendation at the middle school level is, you have students who are attempting to come into their independence. And we want to make sure that we honor that, we respect what the independence they're asking for, but that there are some, parameters for what things that you need to have knowledge of. And the other thing that I know is really huge in middle school is they begin to really be attached, their motivation becomes attached to their emotion. And so what we find a lot is that's why peer influences become really important in middle school, because when they're with their friends and they feel like their friends are doing this, then they want to do that or things like that. And not every child, but it's just a very common aspect. So I do think it was very good questions here around how do we have the students interact in positive manners. So I would definitely say that as much of the live interaction as they can participate in, the better. And the other is just to really hone in that routine. Here's the schedule. And I understand that today we couldn't give you the exact schedule, but what I can share is that each school will be putting out the specific bell schedule for you. So you'll be getting communication from your principals and assistant principals on what the movement of the student groups and cohorts are going to look like throughout the day. And when you become familiar with that and really encourage them to engage in that particular community, then I think it will sort of work both ways, that they're getting to know their new classmates or former classmates, and really following that schedule, to give them the consistency. But then within it, give them some voice and choice, so that they really start to come into that independence that they want so much. But let me ask Dr. Malone or Mr. Maynard if they have anything additional that they'd like to share.
I was just going to share very similar to what you've already said, which is to provide structure to the students, because, it's so funny. Kids really, really desire structure, but they never really ask for it, but they really, really want it. So we need to provide structure around their day with some flexibility. You kind of want your boundaries to be with rubber bands and not with, rope, right? So you want to give them a little space to make things a little bit different to fit their rhythm and flow, for lack of better words, but make sure that you're still accomplishing the common goal of meeting all your classrooms and getting your work done, and offering some incentives. If you're beginning to have problems, start setting up some, once this is completed, then this happens, and that way it helps them to understand cause and effect, which I know most of is a very difficult concept for our middle schoolers, but it's really important for them to understand how to utilize that in a positive way and not necessarily always for punishment. So that is what's most helpful. So far as for the schools and what we're doing, I know Mr. Maynard will speak to this as well, but we're just keeping track. We're consistently asking, and we did it with a spreadsheet. I'm not sure how they did it at Elliott, that teachers would regularly put students on this spreadsheet like this. I haven't seen this kid for a week. And then a lot of our support staff who used to do other duties because kids are on campus, now they're spending time in doing outreach, making phone calls, and we have someone who can translate, and just staying up on the families and what do you need? How can we help you? And trying our best to support the families and the students and staying engaged in the school climate. And so we're actually working on that plan right now as we speak. We're looking at the list of kids who were not consistent last year and going to get a jump start on those students at the beginning of the year, making some phone calls home and asking families how we can support and help.
So if I could just read 3 quick questions. If somebody is going from one school to another, do they need to return the Chromebook to their former school and pick up another one, or do they just hang on to it?
They are going to just hang on to it and take it with them to their new school site, and then we'll transition ownership of sites. So it's attributed to the right site with the right student.
Great, thank you. Will students have teachers from their own school, or will they have them from another school in the district?
In phase 1 and 2, they will be rostered with students from their school they are enrolled at.
Thank you. And last, what is PE going to look like for our middle school students?
That's a great question. We are working on thoughtful ways to do that. We are lucky to have great partners, in addition to yourself, but with PEF, and we've been partnering with some different organizations. LA 84 is one, to find ways in which we can have meaningful ways, keep students active. We also have an entire group that is looking at different ways to support our athletic or PE teachers, I should say. But I'll let Mr. Maynard and Dr. Malone just say a couple of words about that. But it has definitely been something that out of the gate back in March, something that we have been working on, because we need to keep kids active, not just academically. We need to keep them physically active as well. But Mr. Maynard or Dr. Malone, have you guys have any ways that you're thinking about supporting your students virtually?
Ms. Malone, did you want to speak on that? Do you want me to just share anything?
I was going to let you go first since I went first last time.
Okay, so yeah. No, we actually have been in communication with our PE department around that very thing. I was quite happy with some of the things that we actually already did do. I know we have room for expansion on it, but we've actually done a lot of work around, like Dr. Reynoso mentioned, we actually have community partners we work with, including our dance partners and some other things like that, because we are an arts magnet, and we're going to be expanding upon that moving in. I know that we've gone through some of the things that the students can do at home, such as yoga and other things like that, and they'll continue to actually build on those types of concepts. And we are looking at other things that we can continue to do to actually have units and actually have some online games in that sense. So, yeah.
And yes, and ditto to what Mr. Maynard said, but we have to work on some like demonstration type activities for our students. And so we're hoping to utilize Flipgrid and some other ways for students to show that they're doing the activities and turn that in and make it easy for our PE teachers to view that and see that the students are engaging in the exercises that they are assigning. Because, you know, remember, PE teachers are the teachers who see, in middle school at least, they are the only teachers that see every kid every year. And so they really get to know our students very well over the years. And so we use that time also, as Mr. Maynard said, for yoga and teaching some of the SEL components and how to breathe, how to relax, how to use exercise to support your SEL needs. So that's how we'll be leaning, especially with SEL being one of our magnet focus areas.
And SEL being social emotional learning. Right.
A really quick one, Susan?
Huh?
Just a really quick question. I think it's been addressed, but just to make sure everyone understands, will there actually be live interactive experiences during synchronous learning, or will teachers be allowed to just post videos as they did this past spring?
I think that's the biggest distinction that we are making with our teachers, is that there was a lot of inconsistency in the spring, and that is for a variety of reasons. I mean, our teachers themselves were working parents who had children at home as well. However, going into the new school year with the guidelines that we have, with the expectations for certain aspects of the work, with access to classrooms that we are hoping to be able to provide for teachers in a safe way, we are expecting that live synchronous means that you are live online. The recordings of those live synchronous moments will be provided, and that's where the asynchronous will come into. I know that there are some teachers who are asking for the benefit of some of their students to be able to provide small mini lesson videos that are pre-recorded and post them into Canvas, but more as a flipped learning model where they want the student to watch that before they come and actually see them live. But they will definitely be doing live sessions. So that's going to be a very big distinction and move away from what happened in the spring. And additionally, what you notice now is that in the schedule that Dr. Reynoso shared with you, the kids are coded into classes that they are going into every single day. And while each school may have a little variation of what minutes or, you know, exact times, they will be doing periods 1, 2, and 3 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They'll be doing periods 4, 5, and 6 on Wednesdays and Fridays. And that is intended so that teachers don't overlap with one another and everyone has the ability to do live synchronous instruction at the designated time.
Great, thank you so much. I think we need to wrap up because we have another program for high school students in not too long. So thank you again to the PUSD staff for giving us this, answering our questions and giving us so much information and all the work you've been doing since forever, it seems, to make this work. Thank you to Collaborate Pasadena for hosting us, and thank you to all the parents who showed up. We will we have recorded this, we will share the recording of this, we will have the audio in Spanish available, and we will follow up with everybody who registered for this, as well as anybody else who's interested, with the questions and answers posted. So again, thank you so much for participating and being with us today.